Hey everybody, Brian Trout coming to you from Mossy Creek Fly Fishing with your fly fishing forecast. The date for today is Monday the 17th of March. Happy St. Patty's Day, everybody. Pretty good spring weather continues. A couple nights below freezing this week, but still lots of mild days. We got anywhere from 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch of rain yesterday in the storms. Looks like some more rain Thursday, which is nice. That's exactly what we need this time of year. Go a few days, get a pretty good soaking rain, then a couple of nice days in the 70s, all right? Trout fishing is gonna be really on fire. It's just gonna take off from this point, especially since there's no really cold in the future. So let's talk a little bit about trout fishing. I get a lot of questions about nymphs and which ones to use, things like that. So I'm gonna discuss what's hatching as far as dry flies, but let's focus a little bit on some subsurface flies, okay? And this can apply to our native brook trout, okay? It can apply to stockfish, and it can apply to some of our other fish, our rainbows and our brown trout that are here in the spring creeks, all right? Trout can be pretty selective feeding on the surface. That's where the danger is. They don't want to spend a ton of time there unless they absolutely have to. They've got birds and fishermen and all kinds of dangerous things up above. Not to mention the bugs take off and fly away. So they can be pretty selective when they come all the way up to eat, but down on the bottom, okay, where they're sitting in their dining room, so to speak, they're a little bit less selective when it comes to exactly matching the hatch. And remember, all of these bugs that are gonna be hatching in March, April, May, and June, all of them are in the stream right now, all right, in different forms. You've got caddis that are in a pupa stage, you've got larva stage, you've got stoneflies creeping around, you have mayflies hanging on the bottom of the rock. So they actually are exposed to quite a variety of food. And when they're comfortable, and when that food is free, just drifting right to their mouth, they're not gonna be as picky as they are when you go to the top. So what I do when I'm picking out some of these nymphs for the trout fishing, I break them down into simple categories. For instance, I'll have really natural looking nymphs, okay? Your nymphs that are blacks, browns, and olives, your hare's ears, your pheasant tails, some of your caddis nymphs. They're kind of realistic looking. They're made quite literally to look as similar to the fly or to the bug as possible. All right, so you can go that route where you're truly matching the hatch, turning over a rock, looking at the mayflies, getting the rough size, getting the color, picking out your fly that matches that. All right. But then there's also attractor patterns, and attractor patterns can mean a lot of different things. To me, it's usually stuff that's wildly or brightly colored. It can be hot bead head, like a hot orange pheasant tail head, like what we got here in the shop. It could be like a Duracell. It could be like a blowtorch, which has a pink tail, like hot pink. Are there any bugs creeping around the stream that have a hot pink tail? No, but they can be very productive, right? These are color schemes that anglers and tyers over decades and decades have figured out work well for these fish. It triggers something in them, it cues something in them. Maybe it works better on a certain light, certain light coming in. So it's important to have those. Also how your fly is dressed, okay? So you're a nymph fisherman, know the advantages of getting nymphs down really quickly. So they're in the strike zone, they stay in the strike zone. So they'll fish very sparsely tied nymphs like paragons, okay? Lots of weight, not a whole lot of feathers and furs. Get straight down to the bottom, very slim, slender profile. These can be really productive, especially if you've got high, heavy water and you gotta get down quick, all right? On the flip side of that, you could have really heavily dressed flies like Guide's Choice hare's ear, okay? Any of our flies here that are tied with soft hackles, okay? Lots of movement, lots of pulsating, very buggy looking, traps little air bubbles and takes down with it, which can really look good to the fish, okay? Those are different ways to think about your nymphs, okay? Sparsely tied, fully tied, natural looking, attractor looking, all right? You need to have these categories. You need to have them in your box. And when you aren't having luck and you've checked your depth and you've checked your drifts and you just aren't doing really well, I'll go to the other end of the light spectrum, or I'll go to the other end of the silhouette spectrum. It looks totally different, okay? So that's just food for thought for nymph fishing when you're out there. This is the process that I go through in the morning, especially when it's cold, to get on the trout stream, whether it's up in the mountains or on one of our bigger freestone streams. I'll tie on a nymph, and people are always saying, how do you pick that nymph, all right? That's kind of how. And if it's not working, I won't just like change my hair's ear from a size 16 to a size 14. The chances that they're being that selective is pretty low. I'll switch from a hare's ear to a Duracell jig nymph, which is totally different looking and totally different color scheme, and see if that does the trick, all right? So that's a little bit of food for thought. We are going into dry fly season, but you should be doing plenty of nymph fishing still, all right? It's gonna be below freezing tonight, and if you get up in the mountains tomorrow morning and it's below freezing and the water temps are still cold, you really ought to be starting off subsurface with that nymph, all right? So mountain trout streams, fishing very well, perfect water flow. Whether you're gonna go to the Blue Ridge or the Alleghenies, all the water is in really great shape. East slope of the Blue Ridge, a little bit warmer, a few more bugs over there, as per usual this time of year, a few less over in the Alleghenies, like the Dry River, the North River, Skidmore Fork, Ramsey's Draft. Still fishing well though. Fish are still quite close to their community pools where they've spent the majority of the winter. Haven't found a lot of fish spreading out into the transition water yet, into little pockets and little side pools and little riffles. So really concentrate your time on those bigger, slower, deeper pools. That's where most of them are gonna be. Best bet for hatches of quills and betas and small caddis are the afternoon hours when the water temps peak, all right? So make sure you don't leave the stream at 12 o'clock to go home, because the best fishing is yet to come, all right? Load up on your ginks and all your good dry fly floatants, because the water levels in some places, there's big heavy wave trains, you're gonna wanna drag that dry fly underneath. So just make sure that you've got your floatants with you, your quill or whatever you like to use. We're all loaded up here at the shop. And the streamer fishing, especially on our delayed harvest and stock trout streams, is quite good. As each day goes by and the water temps are ramping up, the fish are getting a little bit more energetic, their metabolism is increasing, and their desire to chase food for a bigger calorie payoff is increasing every single day. So they're willing to move farther for that big meal, and they're even willing to chase it on the right days, all right? So your golden retrievers and creolex and crystal buggers and near enough sculpins, these are all fishing really well. Speaking of flies, we are super loaded up, probably the most flies we've ever had in our shop in 23 years. So hop online if you need some, come by the shop and check it out, but we are loaded up. If you are struggling with some of the names and whatnot, don't worry, we all are. When we get 20 new patterns in that I've never heard of before, it takes me a while to learn them, but that's okay. But we can help you out with all that as well. All right, moving downhill into the warm water fisheries. You're gonna be looking for increased water temperatures, the warm water species, the bluegill, the largemouth, the smallmouth. Each week that goes by, they're gonna start moving and eating a little bit more. I grew up in Richmond, and there was always a saying that when the forsythia starts to bloom, the bass begin to bite, all right? And here in Harrisburg this week, I saw the forsythia blooming. And so that's a good sign of nature moving along. And those fish are going to be looking to start to slowly move a little more in their winter lies and their winter pools. They're going to venture out a little bit earlier each day, and they're going to stay foraging and looking a little bit longer each day. And eventually this is going to lead to them leaving their winter lie and beginning to look for spawning habitat and spawning areas. But we're really not quite there yet. We're going to need the needle to move a little bit on the temperature before that happens. So just for those of you who know and have had a hard time finding clawdads and critter mites because literally no one is mass producing them anymore, we just got maybe one of the last few giant shipments of clawdads and critter mites in. So if you love fishing brown and black and blue clawdads and different sizes, helger mites, these are really great flies, especially this time of year for getting down deep where the fish are, fishing them slow on the bottom. We got a lot in, all right? Maybe the last time to be able to buy these flies for a while, unless somebody else picks up the pattern. So get on those. Another week or two of musky fishing. Guys are out there looking for them, catching them, moving them, as they like to say. We'll see what happens as far as spawn goes, but April, remember, is kind of the month where the musky in this part of Virginia pack it up and go and spawn. So we stop fishing for them. They become very elusive, and then we will pick up again on the backside in May, where it's quite good. All right, lots to be excited about out there, lots of things to do, lots of fishing to be had. If you want to find new streams, if you want to find new species to fish for, any of that stuff, give us a call or email us, or our favorite, stop by and see us. Some events coming up is the wonderful Mossy Creek Fly Fishing Spring Open House. This year, it is going to be on Saturday, April 5th. All day, sales reps will be here, tons of swine, lots of beer, tons of giveaways, lots of Mossy Creek Fly Fishing guides and instructors on hand to answer all your questions and to talk with you about strategy for the spring and to get out and cast some fly rods as well. So we hope you all plan to come to the Shenandoah Valley and see us on April 5th. All right, I'll see you all next week.